to believe it.
That is correct. We are back. It is the LFC Couch. I'm your host, Nick, for this one, joined by Peter the Coach Kofinas. How are you, Peter?
I am lovely on this Good Friday.
It is Good Friday. Happy Easter to all those out there who are celebrating and also enjoying their long weekend in Australia, and to all our fellow Reds overseas as well that are enjoying the festivities there. It's nice change, this weather, I should say, Peter. We've gone from bushfires over a year ago to a pandemic to floods. It's all happening in Australia, isn't it?
But right now, it's a perfect kind of like that 23, 24 degrees with the sun shining. It's weather to be jealous of, I'll tell you that much.
It is one of those days where you just want to go outside and play a game of footy and maybe just kick back with your mates and have a laugh. But we are podcasting at this very moment because we are here to cater for the masses, because we have a big game on our hands this week. Peter, it'll be Sunday night, Monday morning. Saturday night, Sunday morning for us for a change.
Yeah, 5 a.m.
5 a.m. But it is good. Even if it was on that Monday, still it would have been nice because we have the public holiday on the Monday. So we would have been able to get up and watch it and not have to worry about going to work half asleep and basically living off caffeine for the whole day. But it is against Arsenal FC. It is 5 a.m. for us in Australia. What is that equivalent to? 4 p.m. kickoff Sunday afternoon in England?
8? Is it 8 p.m.?
I thought they were changing the times. I thought it was a 1 hour difference. Anyways, it'll be early afternoon / evening for them over there. But before we get into that, let's have a quick recap of some of our Reds that featured in some internationals. Notably, we had Gini Wijnaldum, who is or isn't leaving us at the end of the season, having given himself an assist for a goal before he scored himself in the Netherlands 7-0 win over Gibraltar. And of course, Diogo Jota as well has been in some fine form himself. He's been looking the goods. And notably to mention Kabak for Turkey, Neco Williams for Wales. And it's nice to see that Sadio Mane also had a substitute run. Didn't actually play a whole match in Senegal's draw with Eswatini.
Salah played as well. I think Keita played. Tsimikas played.
Everyone had a go. Tsimikas for Greece, definitely. Salah was starring again in his match for Egypt. So we've had some good coverage across the board, and it's nice to see these players getting some goals, getting some assists, and hopefully building some confidence, because let's be real, we haven't had the greatest of seasons so far this season.
I think we've said that enough over the recent podcasts. But I like to think as this this international break, as something that we needed, to be honest. Normally we don't need them. I think this one we needed, where I've been watching the LFC TV for the past couple of weeks, where you've been watching the training sessions and things look quite relaxed, which is nice, and they look fresh. I think to enter the final third of this season, I think this 2-week break came at a perfect time, because during this break we found out we've got Real Madrid, and Naby Keita gets 2 extra weeks without games to not get injured. People like Kabak get 2 weeks to obviously build on his momentum, and Nat Phillips stays in our training ground and continues to work on himself tactically and everything else. So, and I think it's good. I think Firmino is now back because he got that rest. Fabinho rests. I think it's actually really, really positive.
It all bodes well for a strong starting 11 against Arsenal this week. And let's not forget, I should say, that Arsenal themselves have had a bit of a topsy-turvy season, probably one of their worst in recent memory. But again, they're not far behind us, so this is an important game, not just for ourselves, but for Arsenal in the same in the same vein there, because they've got some players as well that need to really start stepping up. I mean, we've seen Aubameyang be topsy-turvy in recent weeks. Someone like shall you say, Nicolas Pepe has still got something to prove, still hasn't done enough. Odegaard has looked the goods for them. I think he did play for Norway alongside Haaland. And Haaland, just on a side note, 3 games without scoring a goal, which is the first time in his career thus far. Bit of an anomaly there for him. But they do have a decent squad, and it has to be said, they are going to look at this game at the Emirates as a way to really prove themselves that they are better than where they should be, whereas we're going into this match to say, well, we are definitely not where we should be higher up the table.
I think Arsenal was a great start to the final third of the season, considering what we've got coming up with Leeds United and Real Madrid a couple of times, and after that Chelsea or Porto, because that's how I like to think now. I'm just trying to be as positive as possible. But I think Arsenal was a good team to face, especially away. I think it's kind of like a baptism of fire again, where we kind of thrive on these situations, and I would much rather enter this final part of the season facing Arsenal first game back than they, like a West Brom, for example, before we start jumping into Champions League. I think it's a good kind of jump start that we need. Arsenal have been inconsistent this year. A lot of that's due to self-mistakes at the back, errors playing out. Decision-making in midfield kind of is what's killed them most of all this season. But I think if we have the energy that we normally would have after a 2-week rest, and I think if we get our press right from the start, and I think if we, if our midfield selection is correct, which surely it's Fabinho, Thiago, and Wijnaldum, I think our midfield press and we should suffocate them just enough to create enough chances to hopefully capitalise and win the game.
Well, it sounds like a good starting point to talk about this game, the starting 11, which normally is done towards the end of the pods, but we will try and do it now because it's going to be interesting. As we've just said, we've had players who have played internationals. They've done well. No one has come back with any fresh injury concerns. It looks like some players have picked up some goals. There's some form to run off. And that midfield is going to be important because now that we have Kabak and Phillips who have played a handful of games and have had clean sheets, Kabak, 20 years old, looking the goods. Nat Phillips as well, in his early 20s. The guy will head a brick if you throw it at him. He does not give a shit. And it's nice to see a centre-back partnership of pure centre-backs rather than seeing a makeshift midfield in there because, as you said, it allows Fabinho to do his thing. And we've seen how good he can be in that number 6 role. Point taken against RB Leipzig at home at Anfield when we ended up, I think it was always a given that we did win that game 2-0 as well, so it was 4-0 on aggregate, but you can see how important Fabinho is in that midfield, and if only he was there for a chunk of this season and not playing at centre-back, it makes you wonder where we would be right now when teams had scored counter-attacking goals against us. He probably would have been there to clean the ball up.
Yeah, it's something that, honest to God, Nick, I'm trying not to continue to think about because it does eat at me every time, me and mates, we talk about Liverpool and we always bring up, we just wish Klopp had the guts to kind of like just play the centre-backs and then baptism of fire. As long as we get the midfield, really obviously get that balance right. We've got the 2 fullbacks you can't get wrong and the front 3 kind of picks itself. If the team is, 90% at full strength, but you're, and Alisson in goals, by the way, I'm sure that the centre-backs wouldn't have gone as bad as maybe what they thought they would have gone kind of thing. But obviously it's too late for all that now. We've finally got a centre-back partnership to finish the season as strong as possible, which is what we're looking forward to, of course. Even Davies has had an extra couple of weeks now to get himself up to scratch. I just hope to God we don't see Henderson or Fabinho drop back there again. I think we just got to finish the season with Phillips, Kabak, even Reece Williams and Ben Davies. Those 4 just have to finish the season at centre-back. I don't want to see any more of this makeshift stuff because it's done enough damage and I hope it doesn't do any more damage. It's simple as that, to be honest with you.
No, I 100% agree. As we said, a consistent centre-back line is what you need in order to go forward. I think we also had a stat. We had the most changed back line, I think, in the season or something ridiculous to that effect.
18 different partnerships or whatever it's been. Yeah,
that is crazy. Who the hell does that? I mean, the most you can probably expect is maybe 4 or 5. I think that's probably reasonable. You chop and change a few players here and there, but 18 different centre-back pairings, I've never heard of that before. And a solid Kabak and Phillips or Williams or, Reece Williams, that might not be a bad thing, as you say, because if they are going to finish the season off, then it begs to differ. What's the situation then with Ibrahima Konate apparently doing medical checks and apparently signing for Liverpool from RB Leipzig? So it's another RB Leipzig player apparently coming his way to Liverpool, but he's a defender. And then there's also talks that Kalidou Koulibaly is also rumoured to be signing for us. So Kabak's on a loan. We have an option to buy Kabak. Davies we've purchased for cheap. We've got Phillips. I think his contract expires at the end of the season. Now, am I mistaken there?
I'm pretty sure that's right, yeah. Or has it got one more year left?
Yeah, so I'm thinking, are we just keeping these players at centre back now as a makeshift fix that there are actual centre backs, and we're going to wait for next season when Van Dijk is back, when Gomez is back, and then you have Kanate potentially being in the mix-up for the centre back place, or Koulibaly, if that even actually happens, if that is legitimate or not. I mean, Kabak's got a lot of promise in him. I can see he's got promise. He's still young. As I think you've mentioned it, we forget how young Joe Gomez was when he first came into the squad, and he's developed into the player he is now because he's played consistently. So, do we see something in Kabak and we keep him on, or do you think that Konate, if he does sign, would be the player to come in and Kabak goes back to Schalke, where he's from on loan?
I'd rather go for the 21-year-old Kabak versus the approaching 30 or 30 already kind of Konate, who's going to need time to adapt, whereas Kabak's adapting now. And because of his age, you can mould him easier. I think for me, what's the point of going for Koulibaly? To be honest with you, I think it's a load of crap anyway. But I'd like to, Konate, not bad. I think that's a good one. With Kabak, Gomez and Van Dijk, you keep Nat Phillips and you continue to help Reece Williams develop. But for me, the rest you just kind of get rid of.
Yeah, that would mean Matip would go. I imagine he'd probably go as well. I don't see him staying past another year at best if it doesn't go in the off-season, because his injury record is just way too much. He's been a decent servant. He's been here for a few years, and he's only in his early 30s. It's not like he's some 34, 35-year-old like Milner is, and Milner's still maybe contemplating retirement himself. But the defence, we really need to shake up the defence. Our midfield is good. Our forward line could be better, but it's still good. But our defence has really been lacking, and it's really shown in this season especially.
You can even argue that, though, but it's the defence wasn't as bad as the attack at some point during the season, though. Our attack kind of let us down too. Don't forget. I think we do need help at the top more than ever. Now more than ever, I should say. I've read the reports. Apparently Haaland is heading, or his representatives are heading to England this week to start talking with Manchester City, Liverpool, Chelsea and Manchester United. So everyone's going to have their chance to pitch their best, sail to that pig, that Raiola. But hopefully our sales point does enough, because Haaland to us, I think, is all we need. I prefer Haaland over Mbappe in terms of what we need out of our team, because Mane, Salah aren't going anywhere. I'm convinced they're not going anywhere. Jota works on either side as well. I think Firmino needs a bit of a release with Haaland coming in, and I think we can move Firmino around as well as a kind of like attacking midfielder, where he was originally that kind of player in Germany. So I think look, Mbappe is a freak of nature too. Don't get me wrong. It's like picking Messi or Ronaldo. Which one do you want? But I think for me, I would personally prefer Haaland over the two. And if the rumours are true, if he's meeting with our representatives at some point this week, excellent. I hope to God they can sell fish to a water. Wait, no, water to a fish.
It would be nice to see Haaland come to us, because Dortmund's season over there seems to be a little bit, circling a little bit, and he seems to be stagnating, or some reckon that he's overgrowing or outgrowing the club already, as hard as that can be to believe. He's only been there for a season, but he's had a fantastic season thus far. But in any case, Firmino is an interesting one there. He missed the last game out against Wolves, I think it was. He was out with a bit of a niggling injury, and he came back to training midweek, so it looks like everything is good for him to play Arsenal. But with the form that Jota is in right now, scoring goals against his former team, scoring goals for Portugal, getting consistent minutes under him, his knee seems to be fine. Surely you'd be looking to start Jota in place of Firmino, at least in this match here, purely based on fitness and form at the moment.
Yeah, but then again, I'll be saving Firmino for the Champions League anyway. I think Firmino is key to our Champions League campaign. I think he's like the perfect European football competition kind of style player. I think tactically, where obviously Champions League comes down to tactics, because it's over two legs, so there's a huge planning involved. And I think, what better person to have than the encyclopedia of football himself than Firmino at the top there, who can do basically whatever he wants positionally. I think as important as Jota has been for us, I maybe even rest Mane, for example, because he's in a drought that no one seems to talk about. It's only Firmino who's playing bad apparently. So, but why not have Firmino and Jota and Salah, your front three, for example, in the first leg or second leg, wherever it's going to be? I think if Mane doesn't find his boots soon enough, I think we should be questioning him and not always just putting the blame on Firmino.
Yeah, Mane seems to have sort of dried up his goals, and he's had good opportunities to score goals. He's been in some good situations, some good moments. To quote Jurgen Klopp, in this moment, situation, all that usual stuff. George is better with the accents anyway. But he has not scored goals you would expect him to score. A keeper has saved, it's gone wide, it's hit a post or whatever. Maybe he's doubting himself as well, which is a bit odd because Mane has always been that confidence player. He's the one to stand you up and say, all right, let's go. You want to go? I'm going to go past you. You're not stopping me. I'm going to go past you, and I'm going to either get a shot off target or I'm going to pass it off to a teammate for a goal. And there's always that rift, or there's always that sentiment that there is something between Salah and Mane when it comes to goal scoring, because there were moments in a couple of games where Mane was open for a pass and Salah went himself, and vice versa. I mean, do you buy into any of that sort of stuff?
That's as simple as I could put it. No,
they're both goal scorers. They want to score goals. That's what they want to do.
They both want to win games, so who cares? You know what I mean? As long as they win games.
But do you not think that if there is an opportunity for an easier chance to square a ball off or a tap in instead of going yourself, do you not see frustration? I'm surely you get frustrated when you see that sort of stuff.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Of course it's frustrating, but at the same time, if he puts it away and we win the game, yeah, it's a result-based game, unfortunately, so results matter. And if Mane thinks he's in a better position to score than Salah, then that's normally the case of why he doesn't pass the ball. I think people read into too much of that stuff and they want to create a story that isn't there. And fair enough, but if it is there, then it doesn't really show that much as well. So I don't think it's there, or Klopp would have definitely done more about it. But I just think it's all fluff, to be honest with you.
Now, just quickly, I just want to ask you this one question on Thiago. We know how good he is. We know how good he can be. He's younger than Wijnaldum. We had this discussion with George the other week on who would you rather keep, Wijnaldum or Thiago. But just on the Thiago question, I've seen a lot of people, and when I say people, I mean football pundits and reporters and journalists of the like, who say that Liverpool this season have not been where they normally are because of Thiago, because he doesn't fit the system, because he's a slower player. He's not that explosive midfielder that we've seen when we play in our counter-attacking style or our press. Do you take anything into that, or do you think that is also just something that they make up, maybe not to rubbish Thiago, but maybe to question the transfer policies of Liverpool, or why they even bought this player that they didn't really need? I mean, we've talked about his importance, but just results-wise on the pitch, I mean, do you read anything into that as well?
Load of shit. Absolute load of shit. I think if you remember the Everton game where everyone was jizzing over him, went back to, Van Dijk was obviously playing, we had it full strength, and everyone said, how can you get man of match when you've only played half a game, whatever it is?
Yeah, against Chelsea.
Whatever it was there, I think there's the Thiago that we signed. And he's played, 1.5 games with a full-strength team and absolutely dominated the park. And he's done games on himself where, we may have not won the game, but if you look at his actual statistics for the game, where it's like 90% pass success rate and everything else that comes with it, and where his passes were played, I'll go back to it all over again, where I brought up at the start of this pod was, I think our front line has gotten away with murder a lot this year, and we're blaming defence and Thiago a lot because Thiago's put them on the plate more than enough to score goals in games, and he's done enough where we've created chances from his passing range and everything else that he does, and we haven't scored. But if we had scored, then you wouldn't hear these narratives, and I think it's a load of crap. But I think the best time to judge that is next season. Because next season everyone comes back and we've got everybody and we strengthen again in the window, and then you kind of say, well, let's see how he performs with a full-strength team, not with a team that's been capitulated time and time again throughout the year.
So in saying that, when we see a midfield of Thiago, Fabinho, Wijnaldum, a forward line of Mane, Jota, Salah, our defence, let's say Robertson will play Kabak, Phillips, and Trent, who again is probably still scratching his head as to how he's been left out of the England squad for the Euros altogether. I have no idea how he has one below average season and all of a sudden he's not good enough. I mean, riddle me this, Batman. Also, shout out to Allison spawning a Grobbler-like mustache in training this week. He's got the Bruce Grobblers about him. Actually, don't mind it. The Mo is doing well on Allison, but this team going up against this Arsenal squad, because that's really what we're here to talk about, going up against an Alexandra Lacazette, Saka, Odegaard, Aubameyang, Thomas Partey, Xhaka, also the likes of Magalhaes, David Luiz still playing in the defence, Bellerin, Leno, Kieran Tierney. I mean, surely we've got more than enough to beat Arsenal, even though they have sort of picked up their game lately. I mean, the results haven't been the greatest, but I mean, they beat Leicester, they beat Olympiacos away, they snuck a win against Tottenham, and then they came back to draw with West Ham 3 all after being down 2-0 or something like that. So it is a test for Arsenal in the same, but I mean, does anyone for Arsenal worry you at this moment in time?
I think, look, Arsenal at home, their home record isn't the best. And in all those games you just spoke about, they conceded goals as well. So that West Ham scored 2 own goals, by the way, in that game. So, like, bit of luck there. But what those stats say is that they concede. So if, going back to it all, if we're actually, firing on 80% of our cylinders, we're definitely going to score a goal. It's basically now how we defend it, because if you look at the way they attack and their front line and who they put in these positions like Saka and Lacazette and the guy who's got the weird haircut now who looks like Gollum.
Aubameyang. It reminds me of a mumble rapper like Trey Songs or whatever, one of these blokes.
Terrible haircut. But I think our weakness maybe at centre-backs is pace. And something like, for example, Fabinho playing with doesn't fix it either. So I think their strength is their speed up top, and maybe our weakness is our speed at centre-backs. But that's what goes back to what I said earlier. If we dominate midfield and our press is correct, I think we can definitely limit their services towards their speed up front and kind of minimise their danger. But again, I just think it comes down to how switched on we are in kind of like the mid to front third. And I think that's what will decide the game.
Yeah, midfield's going to play a big part in this because, as you said, Arsenal playing up from the back have been very flimsy. They've conceded so many goals and they continue to do it. I mean, we've seen us consistently do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, and it never works out. Arsenal are the same. They always do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So I think you probably are going to see maybe not an error that leads to a goal from their defense, but definitely you're going to see us getting some chances just from them maybe being half hesitant in their back third. Because if you're going to play it out to Luiz, who's going to go to Xhaka, and then he's going to play it back to Luiz might, slip for half a second and then Mane's on for a run, or Leno will try and pass it out and he gets pressed by Jota, for example. So there is something in that. But our midfield, I mean, I feel confident with this centre-back pairing. I mean, all we wanted was just centre-backs. They don't have to be all Van Dijks. They don't have to be the best centre-backs in the world. They just need to be centre-backs and to be playing consistently next to one another so I actually have an idea of what's going on. So I take your point. If the defence for us is just going to do their job, then we should be fine. But our front line is what it's really going to come down to. I agree. If Mane hasn't been scoring goals, if Salah has been missing chances he normally would be scoring, you'd probably say maybe the pressure is on Jota then to deliver these goals.
I think Mane's under a lot of pressure, to be honest, to come up with the goods, because he's had a bit of a break as well. I think Jota is kind of like, just, if you look at him, he doesn't look like he's fazed by much. You can tell Salah's chasing the golden boot, and good luck to him. I hope he gets it. But he's also been scoring consistently through patches in the season, same as Jota. That's why I look at the pressure is actually on Mane, if you ask me. only because he's other than his Leipzig goal, I think it's been a while since we've seen him look comfortable in front of goal.
And you can say Mane, as I said, Mane has been missing chances he normally does not miss. And maybe he hasn't been attacking defenders like he used to. And he has looked a little bit sluggish. He has looked a little bit tired because he's been playing very consistently. And when we've seen players get subbed off in matches, it's always normally been Salah, and he hasn't been happy. And then, of course, journalists are going to start making up rumours that he's not happy, he's going to go to Spain, etc., etc. And just a quick note, speaking of Spain, when we do face Real Madrid, apparently Ramos is going to be out for a couple of weeks, so he's missing both legs and that Barcelona match. How much you want to read into that is completely up to yourselves. A lot of people are saying he's scared and he's dodging playing against Liverpool. I don't buy that. Maybe he's legitimately injured. Who the hell knows? We'll discuss this when we look at Real Madrid in depth closer to that match. But Salah definitely is one of those players you always find danger in him. And yeah, maybe I take your point. I would have thought that maybe Jota would be under pressure in this match to score goals obviously from that central position if it doesn't float out wide. But if Mane gets a goal in this game, then I think you start to see him start coming back slowly and taking maybe more chances.
You can go as far as saying if Mane looks good against Arsenal and scores a goal, I'm just going to call Real Madrid and tell them don't turn up.
Mane doesn't play on confidence, but when he's got that confidence brewing in him, he is just unstoppable.
He's a joy to watch, and that's what's disappointing in terms of his performances throughout pretty much the entire season. He hasn't looked good almost at all during the season. Yeah, he's scored goals here and there, but he's never looked. You can't honestly look at me and go, Mane, he's still playing like Mane. Whereas Salah, you can kind of say Salah's been doing what Salah's been doing for a while now. You can say that about a few other players. You know, I think the other players got away with murder this year is Robbo. I think he's gotten away with it with some terrible performances, but for some reason it's Trent who gets the blame. So I think there's a few players that have gone under the radar, and I look at that left side and I think those two have gotten away with a lot compared to some other players that they've been getting this season.
Yeah, Robertson hasn't had the best of seasons. You can see his performances haven't really been there. But who else are you going to play at left back? James Milner at 35 years old?
Well, we did sign Tsimikas for this reason. So,
exactly. But that was what I was going to come towards. I mean, we do have a left back who has not played, if at all, for us, and he's played international matches. So what's the hold up?
He was good against Spain.
Yeah.
He was good against Spain. He had Ferran Torres in his pocket for the entire match that Ferran was actually on for, and he ended up getting subbed. So he did well. Considering Spain had 80% of the ball, and all Greece did was defend the whole entire game and finished 1-1. But Tsimikas was actually very good down that left side.
Oh, fair play to Tsimikas. I mean, as you mentioned already for Liverpool, we know that Matip is out, Van Dijk, Gomez and Henderson are still out. Kelleher is still a doubt, perhaps. Firmino should be back on the bench at least. And for Arsenal, Emile Smith-Rowe and Bukayo Saka are potential doubts, but you might see Smith-Rowe maybe playing. He missed the under-21s match against Croatia with some problem that they didn't really make known. And I think in this game, Odegaard is maybe going to be their creative outlet, but they do have Ceballos. He hasn't been the best lately, but there's always that potential in him there. But in saying that, I mean, there have been less than 2.5 goals in our last 5 matches for Liverpool specifically. So we haven't really been scoring a lot of goals. But then again, we're undefeated in 13 of our last 14 matches against Arsenal in all competitions. And that one loss came last season when they beat us 2-0 with those 2 errors. So Arsenal struggling to win themselves. They didn't win 2 matches before the international break, whereas we won a couple of matches, the RB Leipzig return leg and also the game against Wolves, which was a tricky one. That was an important one that we win. And we go into this match now, just trying to be Liverpool of old and just press the death out of the opposition and squeeze them. So we try and get ourselves a few goals or maybe some counter-attack. So, I don't know. How do you see this match panning out?
Draw, to be honest with you. I can see us drawing this game. I don't see us losing. And it all depends on kind of how we control the midfield. For me, if we're going to win the game or not. But I ultimately think we're going to end up drawing this match, like a 1-1 draw.
Oh, so that's your 1-1 prediction?
Yeah.
1-1. I think we'll win. It's not going to be an open game like we've seen at Anfield. Obviously, Anfield's been very different. There's been 5-0s, 5-1s, 3-1s, etc., etc. But at an empty Emirates against a plucky Arsenal team at home, at least lately, you're probably looking at maybe a 2-1 or maybe even a sneaky 1-0.
I'd love a clean sheet, by the way. That would be excellent.
Yeah, that's what I'm working towards. A nice 1-0 game, 0-0 at the half, and then we jag one in the second half, and we hold on. And hopefully we see Fabinho be the boss in the midfield that he can be. Sweep the ball up, hand it over to Thiago. Thiago can put balls through to Salah, Mane, Jota, or Firmino, and we can see Wijnaldum doing what he does in the midfield, just being Gini Wijnaldum, shielding the ball, breaking up play, doing what he does best for however long we may have him remaining a Liverpool player. So that'll wrap things up. A nice 30-odd minute podcast. Thank you, Peter, for taking time out of your Good Friday to join me for the LFC Couch. Of course, we are the biggest Liverpool supporters podcast in the Southern Hemisphere, and some big news coming soon as well for you listening out there. You'll be able to get some exclusive contents, but there are some big things in the background. LFC Couch is making waves, shall we say.
Fingers crossed for us.
Fingers crossed. Peter, thank you very much for joining me once again. Thank you to everyone for listening. This has been the LFC Couch. Find us on your socials at LFC Couch, and also don't forget to subscribe to the podcast LFC Couch on your favourite podcast app. I have been Nick. That has been Peter. We are taking on Arsenal FC this Sunday morning for us in Australia, 5 a.m, whatever it may be in the UK or around the world for anyone watching. Fingers crossed for a win. We definitely need it. And up the Reds.